watched my other videos and thought to yourself, he's telling me to know myself. What the fuck does that even mean? Or, okay, motherfucker, I know who I am. How is this in any way helping me to understand or even give a shit about what you're talking about? It may seem I'm pulling some Deepak Chopra, Jordan Peterson archetypal woo-woo bullshit to make it sound like I know what I'm talking about. And I understand that. Because it takes knowledge of self to see that. The first part of yourself that you see, it's always your bullshit. Okay? And you can look at your bullshit and think, saw myself, now what? Or you just refuse to recognize it as such. You start playing games comparing your bullshit to other bullshit. And that's normal. That's the program. You are literally wired to lie to yourself. There's more to life than mating, spawning, and dying. So you looked at yourself. No, you didn't see yourself. You saw your persona. You saw your avatar. You saw your face, the Arya Stark character. That's her archetype. Yes, okay? You realize that a lot of things about you are phony, or that you tell yourself shit to make yourself feel good about being full of shit. You might say, I know I lie sometimes, but I only lie for the benefit of others, or I'm only an asshole to people who deserve it, or I only cheat to make it fair. I only cheat when it isn't fair. Right. You always know when you cheated. That's why lies are so malignant. You can deceive other people, but you can't deceive the other in you. You know you're full of shit. You can't trust yourself. So that creates a gap between the you and the you think you are. You're compromised now. You're corrupted. That eats away at your confidence. That corrodes your self-esteem. You know you're a liar. Why do you lie? Probably rooted in some kind of defense mechanism, because you don't lie for evil reasons. You know, you distance yourself from the lie, and you tell yourself that even though you lie, you aren't a liar. You lie to yourself. Those types of liars are the worst types. They lie when the truth sounds better. That's what my mom used to tell me when I learned I could lie to avoid negative experiences. I was never a very good liar, but it's not for lack of trying. I would lie about everything. I would lie when the truth sounds better. That's common. According to Peterson, it's a sign of intelligence. You know, I don't know about that, but it does require some imagination. That's essentially what fiction writers do. They contrive stories that make sense. They use details that are fabricated to convince you to suspend your disbelief. You know, we all lie, but almost none of us admit that we are liars unless we're caught by someone. And even then, we don't beat ourselves up too much for lying. We beat ourselves up for being stupid and getting caught. The thing is, when you're smart, you know you're too stupid to ever really outsmart or outrun the truth. The best liars lie to themselves. They aren't even really conscious of it. They aren't even aware they're full of shit. They don't accurately see themselves. Everything they tell themselves about themselves is a better or worse version of themselves, depending on their self-image, depending on their self-esteem or their ego. These are common projections. There are two polarized versions of it. It goes something like, I know myself, and I'm a piece of shit. I'm a hypocrite. I'm a coward. I'm ugly. I'm a loser. Or it could go something more like, I know I'm the best. I deserve what I have because I worked hard, and that I'm smart, or that I'm good. Blah, blah, blah. Whatever the fuck Donald Trump tells himself before he goes to sleep each night. Maybe it's something like, I'm better than some people, but not as good as others. It could be something like that. That's bullshit. It's still bullshit. It's cliche. They say you can't judge a motherfucker till you walk a mile in his moccasins. That's still not good enough. You will judge people. You'll judge yourself. You'll compare yourself to other people. You'll compare yourself, for better or worse, to different versions of yourself. Every time you tell yourself anything, There's like a 95% probability that you're bullshitting yourself. The 5% that knows you're bullshitting yourself is the part you want to get to know. Because we want to know the truth about ourselves. Why? So we can start living a genuine life and stop being a little bitch that we don't respect. When we don't respect ourselves, it shows. We don't expect people to believe us. When you know you speak the truth, it doesn't fuck with you that much when you're doubted. You know who you are. You don't need validation. Who cares if a stupid person thinks your truths are lies? You know what you said is true. You make it harder when you lie and you cheat to make it easier on yourself. It's counterintuitive. Why you should do anything to make life easier, if you must ask? Because life's hard enough. It's brutal, really. Everything is trying to eat or fuck everything else here. This is the domain of the war god. The truth is always the first casualty of war. The world is illusory. Everything is trying to deceive you, manipulate you, coerce you, bribe you, blackmail you, steal from you, steal your time or your attention. Now, what you pay attention to is what defines you. It's what defines your life. There are trillions of things going on by the moment here. What you notice, pay attention to, focus on, is what you are and what your life is made up of. To know thyself, you need to stop lying to yourself. You need to know the difference between you and what you do. So what does that look like? Have you ever busted yourself being phony? I'll tell you an experience I had. I met a woman while I was in my late 20s. She was mid to late 30s. I was really attached to her. I wanted the relationship to work too badly, though. I was over emotional about everything. I was insecure. I thought she was out of my league. We'd argue incessantly. We'd argue about everything. And that's not really true. Every argument that we had was about my insecurity. I hated that I knew she could be with anyone she wanted, and I wanted to be with her. And I wanted, more than that, I wanted her to be with me. It sucked. I got into an argument with her one day, and she hung up on me on the phone. I was out talking with her on the phone. And I was so fucked up out of my mind over it that I threw my phone at the wall and fell down on my hands and knees and just started punching the ground. And I was sobbing. And this voice in my head says, "Wow, dude, you deserve a fucking Oscar for this performance. Too bad nobody's here to see it. You missed your calling, man. You're so full of shit and so convincing. You could be an actor." I knew the other voice was me, my rig pup. There was a me inside of my head and in my heart that was telling me to grow the fuck up and be a man. Do something with yourself. Stop being pathetic. Own your consciousness, time and attention. Be real. Stop feeling sorry for yourself. Stop externalizing your joy and your pain. Look at yourself. You aren't special. You aren't really anything in the grander scheme. Why are you taking yourself so goddamn seriously? You're beating yourself up because a girl doesn't want to touch your dick, dude. Stop being stupid. Stop being a baby. I was being a child, and it was embarrassing. So I sent a text apologizing for being an asshole, and I just took myself out of the ordeal, out of the equation entirely. I went for a walk, and I looked at the sun setting and the birds chirping and the cars and the people walking around in the city, and I went to the bar by myself and had a whiskey and just watched people. I watched the mating rituals of strangers. I watched what humans do. You know, and that doesn't mean I wasn't thinking about her. I wondered where she was. I wondered what she was doing and who she was doing it with. But nothing I thought really could make my reality any different in that moment. So I just lived in that moment. You know, I was ruminating over her. I'd think about her, and then I'd feel jealous, and the other me would say, "That's what jealousy feels like." And then I'd feel sad, and the other would say, "This is what sadness feels like." And then the other version of myself, "The other saves your progress. and uploads the data into the cloud. It time and date stamps it. It's now a reference. You see, so when you feel insecure, jealous, you pull up the file and you remember you lived through it. And because of that, less shit makes you feel insecure and jealous because you know it's probably stupid bullshit. And even if it isn't, you know you get over it. You have confidence that you earned through a painful experience. You accepted your failures and were humbled enough by them to learn from it. You know, you look back on those times with nostalgia because you don't get that passionate about things anymore. And you will when you start losing shit you take for granted. Maybe you've had a similar experience. That's life, right? Coward is incapable of exhibiting love type shit. Love is the prerogative of the brave type shit. Gandhi type shit. You ever talk to yourself? Do you ever refer to yourself by name? Like, say you do something stupid and when you realize you fucked up, you say to yourself, or even think to yourself, "Good job, Chris, you dumb fuck." Okay, so that's the first step. Because what you've done there is you've detached yourself from your avatar. You've distinguished yourself from yourself. So now there are two of you. One that's doing shit, having thoughts, daydreaming, worrying about bills, failing or flailing or succeeding. And the other is passive. The other is watching what you're doing and thinking and saying and experiencing, and the other is laying back there quiet, like dormant. Your ego's like a shark, man, and it's just like watching. It's hunting. It's hunting for you to fuck up. You might not even know it's there, but it's watching you and taking notes and judging you. It might be telling you, no matter what you do, you'll never be enough to be what you want to be. The other also might be telling you that you're already the best that you can be. Like, look at you. Compared to all the dumb fucks around you, dude, you're a genius. Both of those aren't the other. That's you hiding from yourself. You figure this shit out when you meditate. You figure out how full of shit you are. Or you take a sacramental compound and have a quote unquote bad trip, and then you get really real with yourself. And you could do that. I maybe wouldn't suggest that unless you've already done some serious work in introspection. You hide from yourself because you're afraid of yourself. You're afraid you'll tell yourself the truth. The truth is your deepest, darkest fear. It might be your deepest, darkest guilt. It might be shame. It's the thing you would be most mortified by if your mother found out, or if your husband or your children found out about it. It's your Achilles heel. It's your vulnerability. It's your belly. For men, that might be submission to a greater force. Men have a harder time with spirits for a lot of different reasons, but they are reasons and not just excuses. You know the other knows. But none of that shit matters because you haven't gone far enough or deep enough. You haven't asked yourself the other questions. There's more. There's a why. And until you begin to understand the why, then you won't know where or how to move closer to who and what you actually are and what you can be. Why? You have to speculate. Here's an example. Why was I born? Well, it could be that there's a God that formed your soul. Why though? What's Occam's razor on the existential dilemma? Why? The whys multiply and divide. They hang on each other, and you can find yourself either weirdly calmed by it, or else it can throw you into a panic attack. What kind of God do you want to believe in? Jehovah? You think Jehovah created the universe? The heavens? Meaning outer space and its infinite expansion in every direction? Do you think he wrote a book that describes himself as the Word and he is that which is? I mean, Popeye said some shit similar to that, you know? You don't have to believe in what you understand. Do you understand religious symbolism? Do you believe the words in the Bible are true? Do you believe God wrote it? God in his infinite wisdom and infinite nature took a second and jotted down a rule book on how men should behave and trade their property, including women and slaves. He orders us to pray and perform rituals and obey. Does he? Question mark. That's my religious symbol. What is it? Two things my 2-year-old constantly asks me. Daddy, what is it? And why? What does the question mark represent? I haven't thought about it for a while, so I don't even know anymore. That's Krishnamurti's approach. He was a reluctant guru. He didn't want to be, but he was a world teacher. That, that scene in Fight Club where Tyler Durden tells the kid to get off his porch, but the kid wouldn't. That's Jiddu. His student would ask him the same questions over the years, but he would never answer the same question the way he had previously because he assumed that was no longer the truth. He would say, "Let's find out together." Two reasons to do it that way. One, because it's possible that he was wrong the last time he answered the question. He may have more information than he previously did when he answered it the last time. Let's see if the same rationale holds up. The second is that he's worked out his reason and logic in front of the students by attacking his own positions. He would bicker with himself, trying as hard as he could to cripple his own arguments or positions on any given issue. He would do that in front of his students to demonstrate how and why he had come to the conclusion that he holds. The third reason of the two is that when you defend your positions from yourself, you're likely not committed to them. You're not married to them. You yourself are trying to defeat your own position. So when someone comes along and then pops your balloon, you're grateful. You don't defend your position. You bow to whoever liberated you from your error and ingratitude. And then you spend your focus attacking that position. You see, the truth changes. Reality broadens with your maturity. What's true today will not be true tomorrow. That gets you into the subjective truth claim bullshit going on in academia today. It's like, I have zero interest in that stupid shit. That's an ego wrestling match. That's some ids having a big dick contest. Who can crucify the ego the best? It's an exercise in futility. Who can be the most enlightened by proving that they're the wisest type shit? That's a proving ground for children. That's not for us. And I mean us in the singular. I'm only speaking for myself. That's where you get into what Chogyam Trungpa Rinpoche refers to as spiritual materialism. Siddhartha Gautama, the Buddha, was the first fucking psychologist philosopher, okay? It wasn't Frederick fucking Nietzsche. It was Siddhartha. 300 years before Alexander brought Greco-Buddhism to the Middle East. 2,000 years later, Jordan Peterson is psychoanalyzing the Old Testament. I mean, better late than never, but it takes a certain type of ignorance to be such a cultural supremacist to think Peterson is bringing anything new to the world. The way right-wingers are talking about the West these days is very unsettling to me. Look, I'm not going to say I don't talk shit, okay? That's part of discernment. I'm not enlightened. Okay? Okay? I'm not. I don't claim to be. I still get annoyed by people who talk shit. Just as I talk shit. Now, you see, that's the fucking paradox. That's the bullshit you tell yourself to avoid the truth. I'm a hypocrite. Don't do that which you despise in others. I just showed you how to catch yourself, check yourself, know yourself. The other just sits there and watches you make a fool of yourself, and then you look at yourself as a fool, and then you learn. That shit stops happening the instant you assume you know anything and no longer have to subject your position to scrutiny. You stop learning. And in that instant, that's when you become dull and dumb, dead, stagnant. So be honest with yourself. You'll eventually stop lying to yourself as much because it will embarrass you. And subsequently, you won't have to reduce your genuine honesty to a manipulation device to keep you from getting caught in a lie by telling the truth, by at least not telling lies. You know what I mean? Jordan Peterson's chapter in his book, Tell the Truth or at least Don't Lie, that's a spiritual handicap. That's an obstruction towards spiritual evolution. That's my whole Marxist point about democratizing the workplace. That's why I can't take these libertarians seriously, these classic liberals, these moderate right-wingers. They're inconsistent at best and disingenuous more commonly. They're short-sighted and narrow in their view. They certainly don't know themselves, because otherwise they would see that the least of their brethren as themselves. They're religious but not spiritual. There's nothing I've ever experienced that was more counterintuitive to spiritual evolution or growth than religion. Why? Because it gives you the answer to the question without actually answering it. What happens when you get an answer? You stop asking the question. Then you base your worldview on your ideology on that answer, regardless of whether or not it's true. Then you warp your reality through your ideology to fit the answer instead of searching more deeply or asking better questions. Seek the truth and run like hell from anyone who claims to have found it and would like to sell it to you. There are good things about religion though, right? Yeah, what? They build communities? Yeah. Based on what? So does punk rock and a love for comic books, by the way. So does communism. Communism isn't exclusive. You don't have to pretend to believe in bullshit to be accepted into a communist society. Nothing turns an individual's ideology 180 degrees like authoritarianism. Let me ask you something. Can capitalism or religion be authoritarian? What about democracy? Yeah, it can. The tyranny of the majority, absolutely. That can and does happen. So how do we contend with that? How? By implementing human individual rights laws. Pretty fucking simple, huh? Now that we've established through a lot of hard-won fights that women are people and blacks are fully human and not just 3/5. I see too many conservative white men afraid of collective karmic retribution. You know, after Weinstein's plea for social justice warriors to kiss the asses of white guys, well, let me ask you, should women and brown people kiss white men's asses if it can prevent them from genociding and handmaids tailing us? Is that the fucking solution? To know yourself, you have to know death. That's my other point of contention with religion. It outsources your death anxiety. You know nothing of yourself if you point a blind eye toward your own mortality, because you don't face your fears. You pay the preacher to tell you bedtime stories every Sunday, Saturday, Friday, depending on which part of the world you're from, depending on your FOO, your FOO, your family of origin, your cult, your culture. You see, when you outsource your death anxiety, you rob yourself of relating with people who are different than you, because that's what we absolutely, undeniably, unavoidably all share. Is that we're all prone and vulnerable to the suffering that comes from death. And you remember that your death isn't a special punishment just for you, right? You're not being picked on. We're all gonna die. Someone loves is dying right this second. You can't live your life in the valley of the shadow of death. The archetype Peterson describes is almost true. You don't save your father from the underworld. The underworld is your dark heart. It's your shadow. You slay him and usurp him. Okay? You save him in the process. You save him when you forgive them. The whole missed fucking point of Christianity is forgiveness. Atonement. At one meant. Atonement. In one moment and one mind. Richard Rohr has something better than chaos and order to say about it. He'd never say something so naive as presenting someone with an antidote to what he describes as feminine. It's a triune, okay? It's something like this. There's order, there's disorder / chaos, if you want to look at it like that, and then reorder, and that cycles out forever through eternity. And go read Richard Rohr. Or go read some good hard science fiction. Give recommendations to my friend Chase Veneker. So Star Wars is the Bible. Star Wars is the Bible, and that's why motherfuckers love it so much. They don't understand the archetype and specifics, but Lucas did. He put the archetypal hero journey in the set of space, like outer space. Oldest story ever told. It's the tale of redemption. It's the redemption myth. You got Vader. He's a cyborg. He's half evil wizard and half robot. He's Kronos. He's Saturn. He's the Dark Father. He's the Darth Vader, Vader. It's almost obvious. He's the absent father to Luke and Leia. Luke. Who's Luke? How do we find out? How do we find out who Luke is in Hebrew? Well, first, you cut the vowels. L-U-K-E, now you got L-C. The L is the angle. The C is the broken circle. You have the root of LC. Now you have LUC, two broken circles. And an angle, you have Lu, or light, where we get luminous beings, or me, not this crude matter. Matter is mother, maternal, material. We come here from the father and through the mother. Every pregnancy, wanted or otherwise, is because of the action or inaction of the father, of the male. Every abortion is because a selfish dude acted without thinking, without asking, without being conscious of what he was doing. Mother is matter. Father, Peter, patter, pattern, papa, paternal. That's the father. That's the patriarchy. And we never leave the mother, because the mother is the planet. The father is always absent. That's why we made God in a male Abrahamic religion. God has to fill in where men fall short. We don't teach men anything in our culture. Men are far less spiritually evolved in general, because we only kill and feed, and we never give life. We only take it. We give it in the sense that we take it from others to provide for our own. That's how we express our divine masculinity. So back to Star Wars. Luke, the Lightbringer, is the Skywalker. Because what does the sun do? It walks across the sky. It gives us light, the day. The Latin word for day is Dios. That's also where we get the word deity, die. What is die? Die. It means two, a split from the whole. What is a die? It's a six-sided cube. What's a cube? A cube is an equally condensed folded cross. We talked about that in the Fractal Universe episode. This is the classical aspect, the mechanical aspect. This is the physics. Star Wars, as a narrative, is the romantic, the cosmic drama. So what happened a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away? What's the story? Well, Luke doesn't know who or what he is. He's a naive kid. He gets his call to action when his aunt and uncle are murdered by his father's army, unbeknownst to him. He's initiated into his path externally by the father and the father's master. He's forced by circumstance to be a man. He's initiated. It's his rite of passage. He's initiated into the hero's journey. All myths and legends have these psychological elements and aspects to them. Whether you're Zeus, or Jesus, or Jesus, or Luke, or Luke, or Lou, or Lucifer. He meets his mentor in Kenobi and he learns who he is in Empire Strikes Back. First in the cave when he kills his father, you know, the part where his face explodes into the helmet. His deepest fear, when he faces his deepest fear, he faces a shadow. He steps into a shadow, out of a shadow. And then again, he's told by Vader that he is his father on the weather vane investment. And he goes through the 5 stages of denial. Vader tells him, search your feelings, you know it to be true. Vader tells him to know thyself. And by virtue of that, Vader tells him to know the truth by knowing thyself. That's the Chronos Zeus father-son archetype. It's Oedipus. That's in Return of the Jedi later when Luke tells Leia that she's his twin after 2 episodes of sexual tension between them and the jealousy and drama that entails. It's also Jehovah and Jesus. Jesus finds out his dad is the devil. This shit is omitted from Christian dogma, but he's the son. His father is Saturn, the lord of time and chaos. Saturn comes back around type shit, that tool lyric. So the son must distinguish himself from time to know thyself, and this redemption is the natural order of consequences. The cycle breaks, the journey ends, the mission is accomplished. All has been redeemed until the hero lives long enough to become the villain in his own story. Again and again. You know, I stopped watching Star Wars movies. I don't know the relationship between the new, I think her name's Rey, the new apprentice to Skywalker. But I could have told you 10 years ago the Skywalker's apprentice would have been female because I know Aquarius and Kali Yuga. And if it's consistent with the cosmic order, then that's what's going to happen. Now, I don't know what's going to happen after Aquarius. I don't think anybody does, but our best bet is to start at the beginning. A start day, Esteroth, Esther, Easter. It's like a record you love, you know. When it's over, you put the needle back at the edge. That is a mandala. It's a sonic musical mandala. It runs its cycle through a spiral backward toward the center. That's how records work. Re-chord, that's a whole different thing. Re meaning again, chord meaning a set of notes played simultaneously, or a rope, a bond. That's what that is. You know, you play it again, Sam. It's like it's an eternal thing. Star Wars is what it says it is. It's intuitive. It's as intuitive as a user interface can possibly be, man. It's like life is fi and love. So be kind. Be that which you'd like to see in the world, and it shall be so. Make it so. Number one. That's Star Trek shit. The trek is through war, here, through energetic polarity, truly. That's Star Wars. That's the Bible too. That's the cycle. That's the process. It's all about self-gnosis. That's the point. That's the psychology. How do I know this? Because I've experienced it. It's my story. It's your story too. You're experiencing it right now. That's why the fiction, the frequency, that means two things. It's a frequency and it's a frequency. Like how often something happens is its frequency. The bandwidth in which it happens is also its frequency. That's how this shit fucking works. Dude, you gotta listen and you gotta see with this eye. All of your senses. You gotta be sensible and sensitive. But it resonates with you, and that's the point of the circle. The point of the circle. The point is to atone, to square the circle, to reconcile it, and it rings true. And I'll tell you about tones and music and harmony and frequency, all in due time, my friends. So stay tuned for the next gripping installation of Rhythm Method Air, where again, I'll tell you, life is a gift. Your enemy is just a teacher that you don't quite understand yet. New rules for a new dawn. Let's gather together. Think about it. Think about what it means. That's it. In the meantime, be kind.